Good afternoon. This is Gateway's Wednesday's Conversation Cafe. Today we'll be discussing with the Gateway Calgary team on their new program, their brand new program. So it started June 1st, and here are Sarah and Melissa to talk about what the program has to offer and who it is targeted towards and all the good details that will follow. So let's start off with Sarah and Melissa. So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the project?
Absolutely. So here at Gateway Calgary, I am a workplace inclusion strategist. So what my job will be is to work with potential job seekers and employers in the Calgary area and help get job seekers trained and kind of facilitated in interview prep. We'll attend interviews together, and then I'll build relationships with employers throughout Calgary to help facilitate those job placements.
Excellent. Melissa, can you tell a little bit about yourself and your role on the project?
Yes. So my name is Melissa, and I am the project coordinator for the Get Work project. And so I do all of our referrals and all of our applicants coming in. So I go through those, and then I invite potential job seekers or program participants to come in for an information session where I share with them how our program works, some of the incentives and perks that we have to offer, what are our expectations and what are we looking for, and then how can we best support. And so after that, then I pair the individuals up with their next working team member in the project, and my involvement is really done from there at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, Melissa, we'll go a little deeper into the process itself. So for now, Sarah, you are the
Workplace inclusion strategist.
Inclusion strategist, and Melissa, you are the project coordinator and the intake coordinator, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And the program itself is called Get Work.
Yes.
So it's Gateway Employment Transitions to Work.
Yes.
Can you get us maybe give the viewers some idea into who are the job seekers we're talking about? So if you can describe that group, the demographic, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So our project is geared towards helping youth who might experience barriers in finding employment. This could be disability-related barriers, it could be financial-related barriers, and it's really a great transition program that our program manager developed because he saw that there was a need to help support individuals leaving high school or who have left high school and started early stages of adulthood with kind of transitioning into the workforce. There's not a lot of programs and resources that are available for some individuals who might not qualify for other funding sources, such as PDD. So it's a really great program that is kind of helping to bridge that gap that we see with some individuals who are leaving high school and joining the workforce in achieving their employment goals, really, and kind of becoming more independent and transitioning into adulthood generally.
Okay, so what is the age group, Sarah? What
Yes.
are the age group you're talking about?
We're working with youth ages 15 to 30.
Okay, so it's the federal definition of youth.
Yes.
Okay, so 15 to 30. So could it be, say, a 15-year-old who stopped going to school?
Yes, who has stopped going to school? Absolutely. I think one of the criteria is that we can't have somebody who is actively enrolled in school and trying to obtain their high school diploma. We're funded through Service Canada, so our funders really want to ensure that we're not poaching youth from schools and transitioning them into the workforce before they've been able to receive their high school diploma or a certificate equivalent.
Okay. Is there a period of time that they have to be out of school to meet with you guys? So someone, let's say they are 15, they've stopped going to school, maybe they dropped out of school in January. Can they contact you in February?
Melissa, do you maybe want to touch base on that one?
Yeah. So if an individual, let's continue with this example of a 15-year-old that has left school in January. And if that individual has no intention of going back to school, they have decided that the secondary school system isn't for them, and they having a high school certificate or a high school diploma is not part of their plans, we absolutely could begin working with that individual as soon as February, using your example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what role does the guardian have to play? Because we're talking about someone under the age of 18. If the potential job seeker is making that switch, they still, the parent wants them to be in school, but the child does not want to be in school anymore. So what's the role of the guardian in allowing their loved one to be a part of this program?
So in an instance like that, of course, we do have to follow and respect guardianship. To bring somebody into our program when their guardian has completely said no, that would not be something that we would typically explore, but everything is case by case. Something that with our program and this project specifically that we can offer though is the opportunity for individuals to audit some of our workshops and different components that we have to offer. And so maybe right now isn't the perfect time for somebody to join us. But the great thing about it is that that's okay if it's not right now, because it could be later. So when that individual is 18, or they have completed high school, or they've come to a different understanding with their guardian, then we could really get in depth with our work with them. But prior to that, we absolutely don't want to turn anybody away or say no to anybody. So we would offer the opportunity to audit different components of our program without fully being enrolled in our program.
Okay. That's really interesting. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about potential scenarios where participants or job seekers, as we want to call them, could be eligible.
Okay.
So let's say we just discussed a 15-year-old who's probably still living with their family, has decided not to be in school anymore. So they could potentially have a conversation with their caregiver, which is their parent or, foster parent, about being a part of this program. Then we're talking about maybe high school students. Would that be fair to say? Like maybe someone in grade 12 who just passed out of grade 12 is what you're saying could be eligible because they're no longer in school. Let's explore that portion a little bit, because some of the schools offer K&E programs for youth with multiple barriers in high school. It's a knowledge and employment stream. So that would be a certificate as opposed to a diploma. And just thinking, so if they have work experience through their school, and that is considered as towards the end of their schooling, right? In their last 6 months of school, they have work experience and they're going to be graduating after that. Could their work experience, could they get that through you guys because they're anyway about to leave the school? Potentially?
I would say yes with that. We could start a partnership earlier on in that individual's employment journey. And so if we have the opportunity to come in and make that work experience a more positive experience for everyone involved, or if there's learning opportunities that we can take from that and build into the next work experience that individual might encounter, then for sure we would be open to providing that support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
to
then
all, yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, and another thing too, that work experience program that they might be tapping into in their last semester of school is a really good stepping stone for our program. It's a way
Mm-hmm.
for them to kind of develop a sense of idea about what they might want to do for work. So there's potential for them to become involved with our program when they've completed that or when they're near completing, because they've already built some foundation for what they would like to look for when it comes to paid employment.
Okay.
That's one of our biggest goals, and our outcome is considered to have paid competitive employment for all of the job seekers within our
Okay.
program.
Okay. Okay. And so that's great for teachers to hear that if they're already working with students in their classrooms towards work experience and they're in
Mhm.
grade 12, this is a good stepping stone for the next steps.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and
That's
it's supported as well. I think as some of the things that teachers might struggle a little bit with is knowing some of their students might require a little bit of extra support or assistance with approaching the workforce, and it's a nice option to know that that individual won't have to explore all of that stuff on their own. We're very job seeker directed, so we work individually with our job seekers,
okay.
and we'll be able to facilitate very individualized support and job placements for those individuals. So it's a little peace of mind knowing that those students wouldn't have to then explore that all on their own. There's a program that will help facilitate that.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So moving along the same eligibility criteria, let's say we're talking about young people that are part of youth serving agencies. So if they're part of child welfare, facing multiple barriers, and either are living in the government's care, either as foster homes, group homes, supported independent living, those young people could also be a part of this program. Okay.
Absolutely.
And it just
Yeah.
meets the same as before, as in they're not in school or towards the end of their schooling. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So that's another area as well. Very
Absolutely. And one of the nice things about our program, with us starting as early as 15-year-old youth all the way up to the age of 30, we're able to provide a little bit of a transition piece from maybe youth in care that will be transferring to adult services
Mhm.
potentially. There's not a lot of resources and support that the government is currently able to provide to transition those services from child and family services to adult services. So
Mhm.
this employment initiative, the Get Work program, is a
Mhm.
really great option for people that might need a little bit of support in achieving their independence.
Okay. Okay. So, does it matter if they have PDD or AISH as part of their? Okay, so they're
No,
eligible as well. So someone
absolutely.
eligible who's receiving AISH could also be eligible for this program, as
Yeah,
long as
I
they're
think that's
15.
one of the, sorry to cut you off, Sahana. I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about is we get to kind of work within a pan disability model. There's not as many limitations
Mhm.
for requirements compared to some other funding sources and some other programs that are available to people in service. So yeah, I think we're pretty fortunate to be able to support people who don't qualify for PDD funding and who may be between the ages of 15 and 18, where those PDD services wouldn't be implemented yet.
Right. Wow, what a delightful program. If I may say so myself, I know I'm a bit biased because I'm part of Gateway as well, but it's excellent, and this is, I think, was the intention, right? Was
Yes,
employment earlier in life.
Mhm.
Yes.
yes.
Um, okay, so we talked about that and the different eligibility criteria. Are there is there any wait list right now? Or can people
If
get
I
started?
just have, if we just can touch on the eligibility criteria piece, that if an individual is going into their grade 12 year, because how Sarah had mentioned that the government or our funders don't want us to be poaching individuals that are going to be completing their high school diploma and taking them to have them in our program and get a job. So I've had some conversations with some parents in the last couple of weeks that do have youth that are going into grade 12. So they're starting grade 12 in September. And again, that's another one of those instances where I will say that even though right now isn't the right time, when we are closer to graduation, like let's say May, even June, we absolutely can step in and start working with that individual at that point in time, because the bulk of their grade 12 year has passed. And so we would be able to start our supports towards the end of the school year, graduation time.
Perfect. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just to jump back to, right now we are super fortunate because we're such a new program. There currently is not a wait list. So we are actually looking to fill about 40 participant spaces for this fiscal year. And we're probably one of the only employment programs in Calgary right now that does not have a wait list.
And you said 40 each year.
Well, we'll do 50 each year, but we've already have about 10 job seekers enlisted in our program. So we're looking to fill 40 more spaces.
Okay, and you just started, right? June 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
excellent. That's excellent. So for those listening to this conversation, this is the Get Work program. So Gateway Employment Transitions, GET Work, and essentially aimed at youth between the ages of 15 to 30 to procure a meaningful employment,
Yes.
long-term competitively waged employment. And you're not restricted to any disability. It's a pan-disability lens as well as a multiple barrier lens.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm also thinking of other potential community groups that would be excited about this program. So for example, the newcomer group,
Yes.
newcomers to Canada, right? So thinking about all the ethnocultural minority groups who have young children, like youth.
Absolutely. We have been trying to connect with some of those programs. That's been one of the things that we've been trying to do in the last couple of months is just promote our program. Because we're so new to Calgary, we've really just been trying to connect with other social programs within Calgary and let them know that we might be a resource that they would like to access. And absolutely, I think newcomers to Calgary, moving into a big city and coming from international destinations, there's always a little bit of culture shock and time that it takes to kind of get yourself situated and settled. So being able to access employment supports for youth of those families that have just come to Calgary is a really great opportunity that we're able to provide. Sometimes there's language or cultural barriers that can impact people's ability to get jobs in Calgary. So we want to help break down those barriers and help facilitate those job placements. So I think we would be a really great resource for some of those families that are looking for support for their youth and young adults and their families.
Sahana, you're muted.
Sorry, there's a lot of background noise here. Sarah, you bring up an important point because I think that adjusting to Canada, adjusting to Calgary, adjusting to this COVID times, there's a lot of adjustment that's required, especially if you're working with newcomers. Do you have the ability to bring in interpreters, translators for these conversations, sign language interpreters?
We do. That's another really great perk of our program. We do have some funding built in to our model so we can obtain interpreters. And then also we have funding for our job seekers to participate in extra schooling programs. So if English is a second language, we have some funds to be able to provide those job seekers with additional educational support if they want to become a little bit more comfortable with using English. There's some really great perks to accessing those resources within our program.
What are some other participant costs that are eligible?
Yeah, so when we're looking at youth and people who have typically not worked before, financial barriers are a huge thing for people to be able to be successful in finding a job. So some of the other financial costs that can be covered by the Get Work program are things like interview clothes. Sometimes just being able to have clean press presentable clothes is a luxury. So we have funds available to be able to support people to go shopping, purchase an interview outfit, and have themselves set up for their interviews and their jobs. We also have funds available to cover bus tickets or bus pass, because transportation is going to be a huge factor on your ability to maintain a job. Calgary has a lot of urban sprawl, and there's sometimes bus routes that can take 20 minutes or 2 hours. So having access to all of our community transit systems will definitely make that a lot easier to maintain employment, and we can help facilitate covering the costs of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about technology, cell phones, things like that?
Yeah. We do have funds for things like assistive technology, for if somebody needs like a piece of technology to help them do their job. The Get Work program is built around breaking down those barriers that come up with employment. And so, yes, we do have funds for technology in school, schooling. Sarah mentioned about the bus passes and the transportation. We also have things, funds, participant costs. If somebody needs some support with childcare, we can offer some support with that. Another example, if somebody has an abscessed tooth or a tooth that's causing them a lot of pain where they can't go to work or things like that because of the pain that they're in, we have some funds to help with those types of emergencies or those types of barriers that do come up. If somebody needs steel-toed boots for their job, we can help with that. Yeah. With the coursework, as far as that participant incentive or support, we are able to provide support to our participants that need a course or a certificate course that falls within a 1-year timeline, and the individual does get a certificate or some type of a credential from that schooling. So lots of participant costs in there.
Yeah, and I think another item too, Melissa, one of the emergency kind of participant costs that's been built into our program is helping assist people with rent. Sometimes that can be a struggle as well, just making sure that people have a safe home to go to. We have some funds available to help cover the cost of rent or help subsidize some rent for individuals who may be struggling to maintain their housing.
Yeah. Sarah, while we are talking about funds and some of those participant bonuses, maybe we should share about the participant payments that we offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's another really great thing that our program offers and helps, again, transition people into the mindset of working. Our job seekers are paid for their meetings with their career consultant and with their inclusion strategist. So it kind of sets that precedence that this program is voluntary, but you're here to achieve some outcomes and to build some skills. And we recognize that you're going to be putting in work to achieve your employment goals, and there's going to be financial compensation for attending those meetings and our workshops. So that's a really great incentive as well for people that maybe want to make a little bit of money before they jump into the workforce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is really good. So there's so much motivation for even the journey towards employment, because I think that's what we're trying to get at is from what you guys are saying, especially when individuals face multiple barriers throughout their life. By the time they come to that age when they might be willing to have normative, pure experiences and get jobs and what have you, there's the added incentive towards working on those goals, right? And I think that is that's really required, because a lot of people are quite often made to feel that their identity is the things that they cannot do. The identity is full of the barriers that are intrinsic to certain barriers felt through their culture, ethnicity, abilities, race, what have you. And
Yeah, absolutely, Sahana. And I think that's one of the great kind of philosophies of the Get Work program. We're really trying to build independence in youth and community inclusion. I think having a job and starting in the workforce at an earlier age really helps set you up for success in the long term. Being a part of a work team and being able to financially provide for yourself, it builds your self-esteem. And sometimes there's a little bit of work that needs to be done to get you ready for employment, and that's exactly what our program does. We'll be providing individualized support and workshops to kind of build confidence and self-esteem, and to maybe change some of those thought patterns too, that you aren't unable to do things because of your disability or your barriers, but we can help you identify all the things that you can do and the things that will set you up for success.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted again.
That's the comic relief in this video. But I was just thinking about the focus and attention you're paying to job seekers is one part of the scenario. I'm very curious to hear about the other end, which is the employment end. So what is the work that you will be doing with employers to be receptive to, first of all, great employees, right? Because your program is not about helping people get a job, but about helping employers get great employees.
Yeah.
So that mindset, tell us a little bit about not in particular about just what kind of employers you have, but what's your philosophy around working with employers?
Yeah, so what we really want to do is develop those great community connections with Calgary employers. We want to be able to provide a bit of a service to them as well as our job seekers, in that we do vetting with our job seekers. We help get them trained and prepared, and we kind of take a little bit of that guesswork out of hiring somebody new. So in my previous job, I was a hiring manager for several years, and I know some of the struggles of going through resumes and setting up interviews and then not having potential candidates work out. So some of that takes a lot of time, and it can be a really stressful portion of the job when you really just need somebody to kind of fill that position and help you maintain your business operations. So one of the nice things that we get to share with employers is that we've already got a crew of people who are prepped and ready and responsible. We can vouch to their accountability by how they've shown up to our workshops and pre-employment meetings to get them to the place where they are ready to work. And because we take an individualized approach to each job seeker, we will work with them to figure out their top job choices and what their passions are. So then we kind of have like a perfectly curated person for that employer if it's one of that job seeker's top job choices. So it takes out a little bit of the guesswork and I guess some of the vetting that goes into hiring people. And because we are such a dynamic team of employment specialists, I think there's a lot of HR practices and knowledge, that we can provide employers with. So we're also kind of like a free resource that they get to access if they want to improve some of their workplace culture initiatives or their hiring practices. We kind of are an all-in-one package. You'll get a great employee and we can help you just really streamline some of your employment processes as well.
Thank you for that, because I really, today's conversation is really aimed at job seekers and the application process. And I just wanted them to have a glimpse of what to expect in the future.
Absolutely.
And so I just, thanks for answering that question. Just to go back to the job seekers themselves, we've covered so far eligibility. We've talked a little bit about participant costs. So if you are a potential job seeker, what are some financial as well as other logistical supports that the program offers? So let's move a little bit into the process itself. So I'm going to give you some different scenarios, so maybe if you can speak to that. So let's say there is a 16-year-old, 17-year-old who heard about this from their parent, and they want to meet with you. The guardian is fully willing and able to support their loved one. What does that process look like? If you had to maybe mention it in steps form, what are the next few steps? What would they need to do?
So I can speak to that. When an individual is interested in our program or being part of our program, the first step is just to really open up that communication. So whether they send me an email or if they already have our application form and that is sent in, once I receive word that an individual is interested in our program, whether that is from a phone call or an application, I then reach out to that individual, and over the phone or via email, we talk about the eligibility just to make sure that we're not, having somebody come in for a meeting that's maybe 35 years old or 14 years old. So we confirm eligibility over the phone. And then once eligibility has been confirmed there, then I invite that individual and their support, direct support network. So if that is maybe their parent or their guardian or a support person in their life, I have them come to our office for an initial information session. And so these sessions are usually about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions the individual has. And these meetings serve as an opportunity for me to share with the candidate and their support people, if they're there, how our program works and what do we do, and the process of our program. And then I learn more about them and what are they looking for and what type of employment support are they looking for.
Okay.
From there, the individual goes home and thinks about it. And then on our end, we of course confirm that we have room in our program to take them in. And if they would like to join our program, then they come in, we sign consents, and they get started. So that's really the first intake piece. So step one is intake.
Yeah.
Once they're in our program, then they're working with their career consultant. And with their career consultant, they're going through career exploration and self-discovery. And so the point of that program phase is to really get to know who that individual is as a person. What do they like? What do they dislike? What type of schedule works best for them? Have they had any job experiences in the past? What is their dream job and where do they want to go? All of these types of things that we talk about and discuss. And from there, we begin to identify job choices. So I always share with people that we are not a job bank, in the sense that we don't have just a bunch of jobs waiting to be filled. And we also don't just apply to every single job out there. We really want to help people identify and apply for those jobs that are really in alignment with their abilities and who they are as an individual. And through that, we're also working on their resume to make sure that their resume is polished and ready to go, that it is an accurate representation of them as an individual, but also that that job matches, or that resume, sorry, matches the type of job that they're wanting to apply for, because that's really important too.
Okay.
And so and going back to tie in some of those perks, through that career exploration and self-discovery piece, we will pay participants $15 per every hour worked with us, up to 27 hours of work. So let's say that a candidate's career exploration takes 20 hours until they have their resume and they're ready to go to the next phase of their program. We will then write them a check for $15 times 20 hours of work, and there you go. And I will also note, when I say that they're working with us in our program, that's having them show up for meetings on time, follow through on tasks that we have given you. When you're having a meeting with us, engage and have that communication. That's where the individuals earn that money. So once the individual has their job choices identified and their resume, so they know which direction they're going, then they move on to working with somebody like Sarah. And so Sarah's job then, or Sarah's role then, is to really support and facilitate the whole job search piece. And so that's everything from job searching, maybe job shadows, going out and meeting with employers. That could be cold calling employers, or just walking in and meeting with employers, sending in applications, following up on applications. We will go on interviews with our candidates. If somebody doesn't want us to go on an interview with them, then we will get them to the point where they feel comfortable and confident going on that interview by themselves, and we'll be at the door waiting for them when they're done. And then, of course, following up on interviews and following up on applications. So that's everything in that middle stage of the program. And so once a job seeker is successful in getting a job, then Sarah's role is done. So she goes out of the picture, and then that career consultant comes back into the picture. And so the career consultant's role at that point is then to really help with that retention piece, the onboarding of the job, but also the retention piece and keeping the job. So that might look like going to work on the first day with that individual, making sure that all of the paperwork is filled out. Where do you go if you have a question? And where's your locker? Where do you go on your breaks? All of those types of things on the first day that can really throw somebody off, we will be there to help and support. And also to help and support the employer, to support the individual, so that there becomes a natural support dynamic. And then our involvement slowly fades out. And so then I always refer to it as kind of like back pocket support. So let's say that the individual has been in their job for 2 months and they have a new training piece that they have to learn. The career consultant can then come back into the workplace and help smooth that training process or that training time over. We're always there to bridge any gaps of communication that might not be effective.
Right.
Everything like that, everything that goes with keeping the job, we help our individuals to keep the job. We're there as much but as little as we need to be.
Okay.
And so I'm almost done. So the timeline that we have to do all of this in is roughly 1 year. So that's 1 year for your intake, your career exploration, your job search, and that job retention piece. And within that 1 year, let's say that somebody gets a job at 11 months of working with us. We're not going to say, sorry, you just have 1 month of time left with us. We absolutely will provide the necessary support to ensure that individual is successful. And the best part of all of this is that not only will you go through career exploration and really get to know who you are as an individual, you'll get a really great resume that represents who you are as an individual. You'll get paid for that time. You'll get a job. And then when individuals are ready to graduate our program at that 1 year mark, we have a graduation bonus. And so on top of everything else, we give our job seekers or our program participants, upon completion of our program, a graduation check of $500 just to say thank you and great job.
Okay. So
Yeah.
these are a lot of steps for someone to remember. So I'm gonna try and maybe in coordination with our question.
Yeah.
Thanks for the great details. So for any young person, whether they're living with a parent or a foster parent or a group's youth serving agency where they're in a group home, or they're part of an adult support system, regardless of where they're at, or even a grade 12 student in high school, step one is to contact the Get Work program.
Yes.
So what is the email for the Get Work program?
The email is getwork, and it's GET-WORK at gatewayassociation.ca.
Okay, so they send an email indicating interest, or they could go to your webpage to find, is there a form that they can fill right on the webpage?
Yeah, we do have our application right on the webpage.
Okay, so it's www.gatewayassociation.ca/Calgary/. So that's your information. Okay. And following that, the intake coordinator, which is you, Melissa, will get a hold of them and go through your consent piece, the information piece. Then the next step, if it's going forward, is they connect with, what is the position that they connect with within the program?
The program coordinator.
The program coordinator.
Yes.
Okay, so the program coordinator, and who comes next?
Then a career consultant.
Career consultant, where they're talking
then,
about exploring the future and what could jobs look like, who they are, what's their identity, and all of that stuff. Okay, that's the career consultant. The next step after that is the
workplace inclusion strategist,
which is you, Sarah,
yes.
Right? So there are a total of 6 of you in the team,
yes.
Right? And so we have intake or program coordinator, career consultant, workplace inclusion strategist, and are there any more positions?
Yeah. Just our program director, who kind of oversees some things, but yeah, it's
okay.
more
So
paperwork.
Right. So these are the 3 steps, right?
Yes.
So that's the process for people. And of course, if people want to hear again what each position offers, then please feel free to rewind this video and listen to what Melissa had to say, because she went into great detail about the process itself. Okay. So, guardian, if someone is under the age of 18, and their guardian is, say, the child welfare system, like the government, do they need to have their guardian's uh, approval to meet with you guys? Do you look for that?
It would be something just on from our funders that we would be looking at, because it would be indicated on their participant form that is tracked or submitted through our funder.
Yeah, and
Okay,
it
so if
is a
they're
legal
under 18,
document.
sorry?
It is a legal document, so we would
Okay.
require some of that paperwork to be completed by a guardian. But again, the job seekers participation in the program is totally self-propelled. They would need to be self-motivated, and it would need to be kind of a goal of theirs in order to be successful in the program.
Okay. So if they're under the age of 18, you're saying they need some sort of guardian approval process.
Unless they're completely like not associated with any
Okay.
any other supports. If they don't have a public or a private guardian, if they're kind of emancipated and doing their own thing, then they would be able to sign off on their referral and application documents.
Right. Yeah. And we can think of multiple youth who might be in that situation. So if
Yeah.
you're a teacher listening to this conversation, and you have students, grade 12 students, or pretty much any grade where 15 and over, their age is 15 and over, and they are leading a transient life and are on their own, those students, if they're not going to be in school, this is a program they can approach as well.
Yeah.
That you just want to make sure that the stakeholders out there know the nuances of this eligibility.
Absolutely. And I think another nice thing about our program too is teachers, parents, job seekers, somebody from social support networks can do the referrals themselves. You do not have to get in contact with a third party to be referred to our program. And I think that is also a nice removal of a barrier that you can refer yourself, you and your family or whoever can fill out that application form and send it directly into our program. And it's usually quite a quick turnaround just because we don't have a wait list right now. So there is some peace of mind knowing that if you're interested, you can refer yourself or some of your students or your children and have a response within a couple of days.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So I guess I'm curious about the career consultant's role. Because we that seems to be the part where you know, they're past the intake coordinator's role, they're getting a deep look into themselves, right? And and are coming across all these amazing things about themselves, that could potentially be employment readiness, or something that could be part of their employment pathway. So when I think about 18-year-olds or even 30-year-olds, sometimes they're not really sure of what careers that they want. They're not sure of what jobs they want. And we're living in a world where people are getting to know themselves better later on in life as opposed to in the early 20s a couple of generations ago. So
Absolutely.
I'm curious, in the career, can you describe a little about the career consultant's role per se,
Yeah.
in relation to the comment I just made about how can one know themselves?
Absolutely. So I guess the career consultants are kind of like our step one vetters. They're going to be meeting with job seekers and getting to know them and kind of build that trust and rapport. So hopefully those job seekers can kind of open up and be truthful and realistic about their job expectations. sometimes some of our job seekers don't even know what jobs are available to them. So our career consultants are really experts in kind of knowing the market, knowing what positions are out there, and also what kind of training requirements might be needed for those positions, as well as some skills that might be needed. Like if you're going to be working in a customer service position, those interpersonal skills are really important. So the career consultant will kind of have those conversations with our job seekers and really kind of flush that out to see if that's something that they might potentially be interested in pursuing. Because we're working with youth, a lot of the people that we are working with might not have other work experience. So really just kind of developing some self-esteem and kind of sharing maybe what some of their hobbies and interests are to kind of tap into those transferable skills. It might give them some really good insight about how they can apply those skills to a position. And the job seekers too are also super new to this process, and navigating that in a global pandemic is also a totally new challenge that we have been faced with. So the career consultants have been really good about keeping on top of current job search websites to find out what kinds of places are actually hiring right now. What's the reality of being put in their like top choice of a job versus their second or third choice. So there's a little bit of conversations to develop people's self-esteem and to kind of pique their interest as to what they might be wanting to do for work, but also a little bit of a reality check with our current global economy and what the success rate for finding jobs in certain areas would look like right now.
Yeah, so I guess as you're saying that for a lot of youth, this will be their first job. It's not their career, right? I think the word career consultant makes it look like this is it. You're starting your career, but it's really about, as a career consultant, you guys would be helping them with the different footsteps that will make up the pathway towards a career.
Absolutely. Those
So,
entry-level positions
yeah.
set you up and help you build some of those skills that you will need for your career.
Right, right. And so would sometimes after these conversations, is it possible that the young person you're talking to wants to actually just go back to school and not really a job? Is that something that your program would support in terms of what schooling they'd need to take?
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa kind of touched base on this a little bit earlier in our conversation,
Yeah.
but if there's a training program that would help get somebody to their long-term career goal, we can help facilitate that. The only stipulation is that it would have to be a schooling program, 12 months or less. We wouldn't be able to help facilitate covering the cost anyways of like a full university degree, but we can absolutely point people in the right direction if that's something that they wanted to entertain. If they want to go back to school and get a post-secondary degree, if that's going to help them meet their career dreams, then we're going to help facilitate that.
Or a diploma or a certificate or, any of those things, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes even just getting your WMIS or forklift certification can really set people up for a career in warehousing or more industrial jobs, and that could be somebody's dream job. So there's some programs that we'd be able to help our job seekers enroll in to get that certification or that diploma that helps lead them to their career dreams.
Yeah, some of the caregivers, their hesitation would be, but we don't want them to start working right now because then they'll be discouraged from going back to school. And I can see how caregivers might be holding their children back from getting employment this early on. So I think it'd be good for them to know that you'd be exploring educational opportunities as well and going back to school opportunities. So maybe they work for a year, and throughout that year, you can actually also talking about going back to school in some capacity.
Absolutely.
Or continuing the employment. Can you tell a little bit about the philosophy now that we've kind of gone into the nitty gritty of the eligibility and the application process. If you need to step back a little bit to understand the philosophy of your program, what would that be in your words?
Yeah, so I think what we really want to do is help build confidence to create independence with our job seekers, to be included in our community, and to build their own communities. I think with just some of the job seekers that I've been working with since our program started at the beginning of June, I keep getting this reoccurring tone of kind of isolation or not fitting in. And it's really becoming more important about how we need to get people to a place where they feel like they're a contributing member of their community, that they have value, and that we can help kind of create that independence and that self-esteem through employment or through education to help set them up for adulthood, to be independent, to be able to manage their own finances and household, and to kind of do things that we all have to do eventually.
I'd like to hone in on that a little bit. So you're talking about community inclusion, community engagement, and community building as the scaffolding that you will help build to maintain the jobs, right?
Yes.
Which is a really interesting take, because a lot of the times jobs are focused on, hey, do you have a resume? Go get, this is the job we have figured out for you. Interview for it. This is the job that you're going to be doing. Let us know if you need any help along the way. But you guys are also looking at how do you help build capacity to sustain jobs and to sustain a community inclusion life, which I think
Absolutely,
is
because there's going to be
excellent.
some trickle down for the job seekers as well as our employers. When we're developing those really great relationships and building communities, our city becomes stronger. We become more united. We tap into resources that we maybe didn't access before. And that diversity, I think, says a lot in regards to strength and resiliency throughout the city. So I personally really love that sense of community. I think humans are very social beings, and we get so much. We get a paycheck and we get skills out of finding a job, but there's so many times where you build those lifelong relationships with colleagues and even your direct boss, that really sets you up for success in the future.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for your time, and I
Of
look forward to our
course.
next conversation where I want to look a little deeper into employers and
Yes.
what's the benefit for employers when they become inclusive employers. What is the benefit to the community, and what's the role of civil society as far as employment, inclusion, employment goes. So, so for our viewers, please stay tuned for that. Sarah French, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Melissa Price, thank you for your time
Thank
today.
you.
And I'm Sahana Parameswara from Gateway Association, interviewing these two lovely humans about the Get Work program, which is now a new Gateway project being implemented and executed in Calgary, Alberta. Okay, so for people wanting to reach you, the email address is get-work at gatewayassociation.ca.
Yes.
And the website is www.gatewayassociation.ca/Calgary/.
Yes.
Excellent.
And we do have a phone number as well for people that might have limited internet access. You can also reach us at 587-779-7888.
Can you say that number again, Sarah?
Yes, 587-779-7888.
Perfect. Thank you both for your time, and good
Thank
luck
you.
Thank you
with the
so much,
Thank you
program.
so
Sahana.
much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.